Hello again everyone, Dave here with Adventures with DWD. Today I'll be reviewing the Apple Watch 5, Series 5, comparing it with the Coros Apex for running, so stay tuned. Before I begin, a full disclaimer that I purchased both of these watches with my own money and have not been compensated by either company to make this video. And these are my thoughts and experiences of using these different watches. So in this video, I'm going to go over several features and benefits of each device to help you make a purchasing decision. I believe many factors should come into play before you make a purchase. And in the case of a GPS watch, specifically for running, you need to understand what you're going to use it for. And if that device checks most amount of boxes for you, go with that device. I'm going to go over some pros and cons of each device, and at the very end I will go over what I believe is the best case scenario for each one of these devices. So with all that out of the way, let's get going to the review. Alright, first up, the Apple Watch. This is my third Apple Watch over the last number of years. I have the Series 5 44mm LTE or cellular version of this watch. So what's good about it for a runner? Now we know Apple Watch has benefits in all other areas and for different things, but I'm going to concentrate specifically on what is good on the device for a runner. First of all, the screen. As you probably know, the screen on these devices are very bright, and if you have a Series 5 or a Series 6, the screen has an always-on setting, and the screen is easy to read in all conditions, the dark, sun, cloud, and you can customize the display on running. As you can see here, you can customize the display to show 4 different metrics at once. I have it set for, in this case, time, elevation gain, current elevation, and total distance. It also has a touchscreen display, which is great if you have dry hands, it's not raining, and it's simple to navigate with some very easy gestures, swipe, touch, etc. Because it's an Apple device, it integrates very well with other services. Download an app, download Strava as an example, Map My Run. Apple Watch has you covered in all of those platforms. The integration with things like Strava and Map My Run are very good. And especially with Strava, you can see more workout metrics on the web or on your iOS device, especially when you have the premium service for Strava. Also, it's part of the Apple ecosystem. And as you probably know, Apple has a variety of devices and services under their umbrella. It connects seamlessly with an iPhone, AirPods for listening to music, and the list goes on. This comes in handy when you want to view workout metrics on your phone. So you have your workout done here and you just go to your phone and look at the different metrics. And there are a plethora of apps available that work with the watch and help you with your running journey. So let's talk battery life. Battery life, Apple claims 5.5 hours of GPS on time and up to 18 hours of battery life. Now, in my experience, I have had up to 4.5 hours of GPS, full GPS on a trail workout last summer. And at the end of that 4.5 hours, I still had about 1/4 of the battery life left. So as long as you're not planning on running anything more than 4.5, 5 hours, this watch will have you covered with the battery life. However, you probably will have to charge this watch daily. What else does it have? Sleep and movement tracking. So because it is a fitness watch as well as a running watch and every other type of watch, smartwatch, the Apple Watch will track your sleep, but for the most part, you're going to have to charge it a little bit before you go to bed so it can track your sleep overnight. It also counts your overall steps, active energy, stand and sit times, etc. And then lastly, the important part of a running watch for data nerds, GPS tracking. The watch tracks a lot of the metrics that most people want: distance, average pace, kilometer and mile splits, cadence, also known as foot strike, average heart rate, a graph of the heart rate, elevation gain, active calories, and elevation minimums and maximums. Okay, that's it for the pros from my perspective for the Apple Watch. Now there are a couple of cons for the Apple Watch for running specifically. Number one, battery life. I know a lot of us, myself included, are used to charging our phone every day or close, but the Apple Watch basically needs to be charged daily. And I believe that most people know that going in when they go to purchase an Apple Watch. Number two drawback, in my opinion, would be the durability. Now, Apple makes great hardware. It's a great device. Nice and light, pretty sturdy overall. I have a little bit of a case protector, screen protector on this device. Keeps the screen from getting scratched and hacked. Change up the bands as you wish. Plan on going through any scrambles up the side of the mountain or going off trail. Just be careful when you have a watch like this. If I were you, I'd throw on one of these clear screen protectors or possibly a case around it, because the crystal itself, even though it's Ionix glass and it's relatively strong, it's not going to withstand scratches up against the rocks or anything like that. And the only other drawback that I have is that it has a touchscreen. Now, I said the touchscreen was a great benefit to the watch, and it is, but if you're out there running really hard and sweating, or it's raining, or it's cold, having a touchscreen on a watch as your main input is, in my opinion, it's a bit of a hassle when you're out there, especially when it's cold. You have to wear gloves or mitts or anything like that. You have to take your gloves or mitts off, and so you can touch the screen, so you can pause your workout, unless you have auto pause enabled on the device itself. So those are my only concerns for the Apple Watch for running. And now moving on to the Coros Apex. So here we have the Coros Apex. Now, Coros is a relatively new company. It's only about 3.5 years old, and they make GPS specific watches. They've had other devices that they made in the past, but they are basically concentrating on GPS watches. So I picked this one up just about a month ago, and I put it through its paces over the last month, and here are my benefits for runners with the Coros Apex. First benefit is that the Coros Apex has buttons. Now, the Apple Watch has 2 buttons and a touchscreen, and the Coros Apex has 1 button at the bottom here, and then it has, similar to Apple Watch, it has the digital crown. They call it something different, but it's basically the same thing. It enables you to spin through and has fantastic tactile feedback. You can think the vibration motor in this is excellent. You can feel it really move as you go through the different screens here. And having 1 button simplicity on this, or 1 button and 1 scroll wheel, is really nice to have, especially when you have gloves on, mitts, etc. When it's cold, when it's raining, you don't have to worry about touching the screen to try to get your workouts paused or stopped or whatever. Number 2, the Coros app for running metrics. Now, the Coros will sync to Strava and all those other platforms, which I do not have my data go to Strava. I prefer to have it just on the phone. And if you see the attached screenshots of the Coros app compared to the built-in fitness app for the Apple Watch, there's no contest, in my opinion, as far as the data you can see. Now, what I'm showing you in these screenshots is a very easy stroll where I use both watches and stop to take video and pictures and all that kind of stuff. And you can see the data for each that is visible on your phone in the native apps. Now, some runners like the simplicity of less is more, and they don't want to see all the data metrics, and they're not going to geek out on all these different things. But some other people want to see more metrics. So depending on what you'd like to see, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't want overkill as you can get on some of the other watches, but I want a good amount of data that I can analyze after my run is over. So Coros, I believe, hits the sweet spot for data. Next up is that on the Coros Apex, you can customize the data field for running. Now in the Apple Watch, yes, you can do that. You can have up to 4 different metrics being measured at once. You can put it all the way down to 1 if you wish. But for this watch, you can have, wait for it, you can have 6 different metrics on the screen at once and up to 6 different data pages. So you have 6 on one page and then 6 different pages if you choose to use all of those pages. Now for myself, since I'm getting up there, my eyes are not definitely as good as they used to be. I stick to about 3 so I can easily read them, and then I switch between 3 different pages depending on if it's trail running or road running. Next up, we have durability. So the durability of this watch, it has a titanium alloy bezel, which is this part around the outside of the watch here, the case. It's got a polymer back to it, and then it has a sapphire crystal display. So what that says, basically in layman's terms, is that this thing is not indestructible, but it is extremely durable. You're not going to have to worry about scratching the face of it and nicking the case or anything like that. This watch will last forever. Of course, the battery would have to be replaced, but this watch will last a very long time. You don't have to worry about, if you're doing off-trail stuff, going up the side of the mountain, doing some scrambles, scratching against rocks. You might get an occasional scratch here and there, but overall, the durability of it is excellent. Next benefit for the Coros Apex watch is mapping. Now for this watch specifically, you can download GPX files from services like AllTrails, Gaia GPS, etc. onto the watch. And then what you can do is, as you're going through your trail run, workout, hike, etc., it will give you an alert if you happen to go off trail. So that's a nice little benefit to the watch itself. You're not going to have full mapping on it as you do with some of the other devices, but for this, you just basically follow like a breadcrumb trail. And the last benefit to this watch that everybody who owns it, and the reason that a lot of people buy this watch, is the battery life. The battery on this watch is an absolute beast. 35 hours in full GPS mode. Yes, you heard me right. 35 hours in full GPS mode. Now you can do what's called something called an ultra track mode, which only counts the GPS recordings every minute, I believe, and it will last 100 hours in that mode. Okay, but 35 hours in full GPS mode. And if you want, you can attach an external, if you have an external battery pack, hook up the charger to it. You can run this while the battery is still being charged, and you can keep your workout data going seamlessly, which is fantastic. In addition to the GPS tracking ability of this watch, it will go up to a month in standby. So you charge it, and unless you're doing 5 hours of running a day, you do an hour and a half, 2 hours, etc. several times a week, you probably won't have to charge this for 2 weeks. And since it has fantastic battery life, you can leave this thing on at night and you can look at your sleep metrics the following day. So you can do that for a couple weeks in a row to see how you are sleeping. So those are all the pros of the Coros Apex. Now, there are some things that I would like to see changed with this device. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. The watch and the app, or specifically the app, I guess, It does not have a web interface, so you are stuck looking at your data, your metrics on the phone. Now, the phone app is fantastic, but it would be, in my opinion, be really nice to have data where you can look at a bigger screen, look on a laptop or possibly an iPad. Be nice to have. Negative or con number 2, I said it's nice to have simplicity with just 2 buttons, but it'd be nice to have another button or 2 on the other side as well, which would be even better if you configure it for left hand versus right hand use. So if you had one on this side and you were a right hand or left handed person, you could map it a certain way, so you could do a back with this one or with this one, depending on how or what wrist you wore it on. That's being a little bit nitpicky, but that's one thing that I would possibly like to see. Now, you can get the Pro version of this Apex that has 5 buttons, so it has 3 and then 2, I believe it is. And the only other drawback for this watch is that it'd be nice to be able to change the brightness of the screen. So what you see now is what you're stuck with. Now, of course, there is a backlight which will turn on when you lift up your wrist or if it's in the dark. But I believe Coros locks down the screen brightness for battery life. And maybe that's something that they will address in the future. So that's it for the pros and cons of both the Apple Watch and the Coros Apex. So what watch would you consider? Here's my take on it. If you're the type of person who likes to stick to the road and you're not going to do anything into the ultra marathon world or anything more than maybe even 50 kilometers, depending on what your pace is, I would go with an Apple Watch in that case. If you're the type of person who wants to get out and explore on trails and get out into the mountains and do day-long hikes and affairs out into the mountains, or even multi-day adventures, I personally would go with the Coros Apex because of that killer battery life and the durability of the watch itself. So those are just my takes on it. Apple Watch, even if you're doing trail stuff, you can be out there running in the trails as long as you're not going to go out there for more than, I wouldn't push it much past 5 hours, but it will serve you well. But the Coros Apex will serve you better if you want that killer battery life. And those are just my thoughts on the 2 different watches. So that's all I have for this video. If you like what you saw, please leave a comment down below. If you have had any experience with either of those devices, I would like you to leave a comment below as well and just give me what your thoughts are on either the Apple Watch or the Coros Apex. And for now, that is everything. If you can consider subscribing to the channel, that would really help us out here. And have yourself a wonderful day, everyone. Peace.